Hi, right now we are going to talk about how to take charge of your finances by completing a job application. We need to consider the importance of a job application. I want you to pause the video and answer this question about Sam. Then turn the video back on and we'll finish completing the note sheet about job applications. A job application is a written request for employment, typically on a specific form provided by the potential employer. Remember, the job application is used to make a good first impression with the employer, to gather information about the employer's or the individual's qualifications, and to compare candidates to one another. There are different ways you can get your job application, and that is by an email, a telephone, on the internet, or in person. If you go to that business to get that job application, make sure that you are dressed appropriately and at least a pair of non-denim pants and a collared shirt. The benefits to completing a job application at that business is you're less likely to lose it to begin with. You can ask any questions about that job application immediately and turn it right back into them. However, you need to make sure you have all the information with you at that time in order to complete it. And you want to have an opportunity to start over if you make mistakes. So therefore, a lot of times you just feel rushed by completing it on site. If, however, you choose to take it off site, there are some benefits, such as being able to make sure you have all of your information, making sure you have absolutely no mistakes, reading it over multiple times. However, it is more likely to get misplaced, dirty, torn, ripped, and it's less convenient because you have to take it back to the business. So therefore, the process takes a little bit longer. When you go to an on-site place to fill out your job application, make sure you have a pen, preferably black, but blue ink also works. Make sure you also have a contact cheat sheet of information with your past employers with their contact information, all of your references with their contact information, and also your education information. Read the entire application thoroughly, being careful not to write in places that say for office use only or do not write below this line. You need to follow the directions on that application. You also need to list your skills and abilities relevant to that job that you're applying for. Not all of your skills are relevant to your job. Be specific. Be specific also when telling what job it is that you're applying for. And any education employment history needs to be listed completely in details with the most recent education employment first. Keep it legible. If your handwriting is not the neatest, you might want to scan that document into a computer. Type prepared responses on a separate sheet of paper and then turn that in with the application. If a mistake is made, be careful using that correction fluid. We do not want that application to appear sloppy. Do not leave any areas blank. If something does not apply to you, just write NA, which means not applicable. There are also some illegal questions that sometimes employers may try to ask. That is your race, your color, religion, and your gender. They cannot do that. They also cannot ask for your exact date of birth. They can only ask if you're above the age of 18, or if necessary for their employment specifications, they might ask if you're over the age of 21. The contact information that belongs to you, you need to keep it up to date. Make sure you have a very professional email address, and your voicemail also needs to be professional. Do not include the poor language or music. Make sure that your response on your voicemail, if they're leaving a message, includes your name and number so they can make sure that they're actually contacting the right person. Social Security numbers, do not be giving those out unless there is a reason. You will probably need to give them that if you're hired for the position, but it does not really need to be written on your job application. If they ask for it, you're going to want to ask them why. You will also want to research typical salaries because they may be asking you for a salary range. Do not give them a number that's too low or too high. If you're not sure what to put, then just write negotiable. You may be a person who's changed jobs a lot. Be careful of what you put. Use neutral terminology. If you've been fired, you might want to write involuntary separation. It just sounds better. If you've quit, once again, a neutral terminology of voluntary separation sounds better. Now, if you're laid off for no reason or fault of your own, give the reason why. Perhaps it was lack of funding for the job, it was a temporary work, maybe it's lack of work, or even a seasonal position. You You'll also be giving personal and professional references. Now, a personal reference is someone who can give an honest opinion about your character, whereas that professional reference is someone who has supervised you in the workplace. Now, if you're still in high school, it might be someone who has supervised you in the workplace, or it could be one of the teachers that you have at your school. Now, you have to make sure that you ask these people if you want them to be your personal or professional references. You should be asking them if they will be able to give you a positive recommendation. Ask them for their preferred phone number and preferred email, their preferred mailing address, and what time of day they can be reached. Do not assume that their home or business emails and phone numbers are appropriate. You really need to ask. When you go to turn in this job application, double check one last time to make sure it is completely filled out and signed. Make sure you've honestly answered all of the questions. Not answering them honestly could be a reason for not even getting the job or being fired. But do follow up with a phone call within about 3 days to make sure that they have your application and the correct person has received it, and to see if they even want to do a follow-up interview with you. Now, in regards to job applications, there are a few things you need to remember. That is the minimum wage that the United States pays to employees regardless of the job or the age of the employee. I would like you to find out what the current minimum wage is for Nebraska. April 2008, it was $6.55. What is it now? Again, find that out for tomorrow and bring that with us at the start of class. What is our minimum wage and where did you find that information? The law also states that 14 and 15-year-olds may work outside school hours in a variety of jobs. However, there are some stipulations. They cannot work more than 3 hours a day on school days, including Fridays. They may not work more than 18 hours per week, more than 8 hours per day on non-school days, or more than 40 hours per week when school is not in session. 16 and 17-year-olds are also limited for the number of hours that they work, and 18-year-olds may perform any job, whether hazardous or not, for an unlimited number of hours. Notice the difference. They can have a non-hazardous job only if they're 16 or 17. Now, if you have any questions, pause the video and write those questions down at this moment. I'm going to now switch PowerPoints and we will talk about the type of how to actually fill out that job application. Now, how to complete a job application is our next topic. Remember that job application tells us who you are and what line of work you're looking for. It's going to start off with that personal contact information of yours. It might look differently in different forms. Here are 2 forms it may have. Remember, if something does not apply to you, write NA. Here's also your work history. Once again, it's going to look different, but have this information with you on that cheat sheet. Notice the differences between the 2 forms. Some say ask reason for leaving. They might want to know the hours that you worked, the date that you started and that you ended, and your starting salary and your ending salary. Make sure you have detailed information with you in order to complete this work history. Your education. Obviously list this first, most recent. Forms will be different. Again, some will want more detailed information as to how many years and what years and grades you went to that high school or to that college and whether you graduated and have a degree. Others just want to know basic information about the name and the address. You may also have different parts, such as a criminal history question. They could ask if you've been convicted of a misdemeanor or a felony, and they may ask you to explain. They might want to know if you have a valid driver's license, especially if you're going to be driving in their company. Now, depending on the field, they may have other specific questions, like the availability, like hours that you are able to work, professional and personal references again. They might ask for your licensing information, especially if it's a professional type job that requires a specific certification, like a medical license, a teaching certificate. There will also be a signature section. That includes a statement saying that you've answered all the questions honestly, and it has a place for you to sign and date this job application. Read this part very carefully. Again, additional parts may include that you have to submit to a personality test, demographics, race, ethnicity. It depends on the type of job that you're actually applying for. You may also have to have a consent and a release for drug testing. You may also be required to fill out your application online. That is why in class tomorrow, not only will you be required to do a paper and pencil job application, but I'm also going to have you fill out an online job application. Do not leave anything blank and put NA if it does not apply to you. Again, be honest. Bring your black and blue pens, bring your cheat sheet, be neat, be legible. This is your first impression that you will have. You don't want to have your job application immediately end up into their trash can. Explain any type of lengthy gaps in your work history. Sign and date it. Proofread your work like I said before, and bring your important documents with you. You may need to give them your social security number there after they've explained the reason why. They may need your driver's license and your professional license and licenses and certifications too. They may ask you for a separate sheet of paper with your additional resume and references on them. How do you get into that no pile or that trash can pile? If you don't follow the directions on the job application, that's exactly where it's going to go. They won't even put it into a filing system. Trash can is it. Misspelled words, crossed out writing, they can't read it. It's messy. If it's incomplete or blank, they see the words quit or fired. They may not wait around to ask you why in an interview. Application isn't signed. If you don't give them realistic salary requirements, not getting past the application process. So that salary question, like we said, is kind of a tricky one. Don't get boxed in. Write the words open or write negotiable. Only write that salary range if you think it's a correct range and you've done your research. With health and ability, they can legally ask you, can you lift 50 pounds from the ground? Because you might be required to do that in the job. But they cannot ask you if you have a disability. In terms of your criminal record, they can only ask you if you've been convicted. They can't ask you for your entire criminal history. But be honest. Don't skirt around the issue or lie about anything, because remember, that's grounds for termination if you do get hired. Your work history, we said before, list all your jobs, even those part-time ones. That way you have no gaps in your employment history. Whether it's self-employment between jobs, include that, or volunteer positions, anything that's full-time, part-time, volunteer. Make sure your work history is complete and detailed. For those tricky reasons for leaving, maybe your plant closed, maybe we moved, seasonal work. Avoid the use of the word fired or quit, as we said before. Why would you want to work for our company? Say something positive about their company. Make sure you've done some research. You've heard it has good working conditions, excellent work environment. Those would be some things that you could say. Again, with those references, use no more than 3. Use the most recent and the best ones first. Your supervisor would be a good one, or a coworker, or then maybe at the very end, a friend or another person who would know you and your character. Always ask their permission. You need to have their detailed contact information that they have said that you could use. And that is what your cheat sheet is for. Your contact information for your work history, your contact information, your references contact information. You're never going to hand that in, but you're going to need it if you fill those job applications out on site. So for tomorrow, remember to find out what that minimum wage is. Bring your completed sheet with you to class, this note sheet that you've been taking these notes on. And also bring all those names and contact information with you. You're going to need those in class to fill out your job application. Remember, we'll be doing paper pencil and we'll be doing an online one. Come ready to work. See you tomorrow.